We finally have our first look at the new versions of the original Zombies crew in the ending cutscene of Reckoning, the final DLC for Black Ops 6 Zombies. Dempsey, Takeo, Nikolai and Richtofen are all here. These are the same characters that leaked months ago as the Black Ops 7 Zombies playable crew, potentially with us having up to 8 players to select from in the menu, considering an 8-player crew leaked a while ago. And the Terminus crew are still alive, joined side by side by the originals. Until now, we only had second-hand descriptions from a leaked feedback event, describing them as completely different variations of the original characters, different to Ultimus and Primis, older than Primis, but younger than Ultimus, which is exactly what we see them as. The ending cutscene scene puts them right in front of us with clear designs and a ton of small details in their outfits that are worth breaking down. We will look at each character individually. The goal is to pull every visible detail from this shot and use it to figure out what it might tell us about their worlds, their roles, and how they could be positioned in the next zombie storyline for Black Ops 7. I've already posted a full video breaking down the full ending cutscene and a lot of the key story beats for Reckoning that will be linked down in the description if you want to check that out. This video will be focusing on what we can interpret of who these characters may be like and how they may differ from their originals just based on their visual appearances. Since we only get one Richtofen line, "Welcome to the party," there's practically nothing we can go on dialogue wise. Let's begin with the fan favourite character and the one leading the charge with the only dialogue, Richtofen. Richtofen stands in the center of the frame and commands immediate attention. His appearance blends elements from the two major versions we know. His mustache is straight from his Primis incarnation. The German commander cap and coat style carry the same but slightly different energy as Ultimus Richtofen, but much more modernized and also regal with the nicer jacket. This combination creates a version that feels both recognizable and new, almost like a blending of the two prior incarnations. The coat is heavy and dark, lined with thick fur around the collar. It looks built for cold climates and long campaigns, possibly a remnant from warfare with the Soviets in his home universe. Assuming these are different incarnations of the characters, or at least memories of them, from the prior multiverse that got plunged into the dark ether, meaning they would have had lives before being thrust in here. His scarf is tied tight in a functional knot and tucked in to stay in place. Across his torso runs a leather strap connected to a shoulder bag that sits close to his side. This suggests he carries documents or compact gear that he needs to keep secure, maybe even a new kind of version of Ultimus Richtofen's journal, a very powerful artifact in the ether story that contained immense knowledge that he gained when he tapped into the ether, similar to the Chronorium. 2 gold medals are pinned to the front of his coat. They are different shapes, which implies they are awards for separate achievements rather than duplicate honors. They sit high on his chest, positioned for visibility. This again suggests he was high-ranking in the German military, unlike Ultimus, who was simply an unwitting member of the Nazi party after Maxis sold out Group 935 to the German Reichstag. His cap insignia is one of the strongest visual clues. It features an eagle with spread wings above a circular wreath. Inside the wreath sits a smaller emblem, though the fine detail is hard to read. The style is consistent with officer caps used by German forces during the Second World War. I know lots of people have been saying he could potentially be a World War I era Richtofen, however this match to historical design supports the idea that his origin point might be tied to the rumoured overrun Nazi New York map for the game. Of course this is just a rumour and is apparently just a concepted idea, so we don't know if Trek have actually gone with this idea, but the fact they were even thinking about it seems to suggest to me that this version of Richtofen is supposed to be a World War II era Richtofen. This version of Richtofen is confirmed to be separate from director Richtofen in Black Ops 6 Zombies. His mix of familiar features and original details points to a character with high rank, access to resources, and the experience to lead in dangerous environments. He reads less like a scientist and more like an officer who plans and acts in the field. And he's measurably older than his Eddie incarnation. Speaking of, we don't know if Janice Richtofen or Director Richtofen is going to be involved in the storyline any further. Obviously in one of the endings he manages to successfully restore his wife and son. Is he now just going to live a peaceful life outside of our storyline and we will never really hear from him again? He gets his happy ending. Well, we don't know because we don't even know which ending is canon, whether it's this one or the Sam AI's ending where she gets a physical body of Samantha Maxis. Or theoretically both could be canon if the multiverse ends up being restored. I'll talk more about in a future future video going in depth. But if Janus Richtofen is not just ignored for the foreseeable future, could we even see two different incarnations of Richtofen interacting with one another again, like Ultimus and Primis? I honestly don't know. Treyarch have a lot of loose storyline threads to be juggling with. It's probably easier for them to just ditch that now and move on to the new story, even if it feels unsatisfying for a lot of us who have been following the Dark Ether narrative since Black Ops Cold War, and he was the main sort of beat as to why everything's happened. With that being said, let's jump into Takeo. On Richtofen's left side stands Takeo, whose design has seen one of the biggest changes. His hair is loose and falls naturally around his face. This softens the strict, formal silhouette of his past appearances and gives him the look of a younger man who has spent a long time in the field. His armor draws from samurai tradition. The chest plate is segmented for movement, dark in color, and reinforced across the shoulders with fur padding. In the center is a stylized eagle set inside a bordered shield. The eagle's form is symmetric and bold, giving it a sense of discipline and authority. This could be the emblem of a clan, a warrior order, or a military faction from his world, again assuming they have come from different versions of the multiverse, which for all we know, all of the characters could have come from different dimensions and been forced to work together as opposed to all coming from the same dimension like Ultimus and Primis. Only time will tell, but I think that would be a nice subversion to what we've seen before, different incarnations plunged into the Dark Ether, or memories of them liminally, and they have to learn to work together as they battle the Shadowsmiths, the Warden, and the Realm from the inside. A katana is strapped across his back in a way that keeps it ready for use. So yes, his katana is back, just like his prior incarnations had. Does this mean we could potentially see it as a playable weapon on future maps? I really hope so. It was a specialist weapon in Black Ops 4 Zombies, of course we could also use it on Revelations. The scabbard is practical, without ornate decoration. His beard is thicker than any past version of Takeo, which along with the loose hair makes him look younger and more lax than the classic Takeo. Everything about his appearance suggests a warrior with deep heritage, pulled from a place that values tradition and personal honor, much like his prior incarnations as well. I suspect they may be going a more serious or respectful take with Takeo this time around, unlike his Ultimus self, although his Primis self was a lot more serious, especially with the situation surrounding Tom Kane retiring due to him suffering a stroke, and the fact he's inevitably going to get recast. I would imagine Treyarch probably want to recast him with an authentic Japanese person to feed their heritage into the role of the character, but only time will tell until we get casting announcements. If the Shohan Japanese temple map leak is correct, that's apparently going to be taking place amidst an erupting volcano. Again, this is just a rumor, not confirmed, so it's subject to change and is just a concept, so might not materialize, but regardless, shows Treyarch's vision, and his armor, weapon, and emblem could all be tied to that setting. The fur and armor layering also suggests he operates in climates that are not purely tropical, hinting at travel or very terrain in his home world. Now moving on to Dempsey. Behind Takeo, partly obscured by shadows, is Dempsey. His design is the closest match to a previous version, specifically Ultimus Dempsey, but to be honest, Primis and Ultimus Dempsey were the most similar in my opinion to the other members of the crews. And it seems just based on their visuals that this is the same case again with this version of Takeo. The jawline, cropped hair, and overall build match what we have seen before. The hairstyle is slightly sharper with cleaner lines, but he maintains his established look. A strap crosses his chest, likely part of a harness for gear that is out of view in this shot. His silhouette is bulkier, which may come from layered combat gear or insulated clothing. This would fit with the cold weather theme present in some of the other crew and members' designs. Dempsey's look offers few new elements to analyze because we can only really see his head, which could be intentional. Keeping him familiar provides an anchor for fans and keeps at least one crew member as a direct connection to their past incarnations, but like I said before, his prior incarnations were the most similar to one another, so I would have liked to see a more stark contrast with Dempsey, but we don't know how he's actually going to function yet, of course. Now moving over to fourth and finally, Nikolai. Arguably the most important Zombies character, as he was the one to collapse the prior multiverse and end the Ether story. On Richtofen's right is Nikolai, and he is the most faithful recreation of a past design. His aviator cap with fur lining is back, along with the flight goggles resting on top. His clothing is so similar to his Primis self. His coat is a heavy leather bomber style with fur insulation and large, functional straps across the chest. The gloves and stitching reinforce the sense that this is working gear designed for survival, not ceremony. The condition of the leather and the thickness of the lining suggests he operates in very cold conditions, something that's been a through line with all of the character designs. The lack of medals or insignia makes it harder to place him within a specific command structure, but his outfit points towards a role as a pilot or someone who works closely with aircrafts. The visual faithfulness to Primis Nikolai supports the idea that his personality will be closer to that version as well. Primis Nikolai was serious, grounded, and driven by personal loss. Again, similar to his Ultima self, but the difference being, Nikolai took it with action, being the one to read the chronorium in the broken cycle, whilst his Ultima self turned to alcohol addiction. His gear and expression here fit that mold. But what can we take from the new crew altogether? The four of them together create a striking contrast. Richtofen's decorated officer uniform, Takeo's samurai armor, Dempsey's marine gear, and Nikolai's pilot outfit all point to different worlds and different conflicts. Each one carries details that tie them to a distinct environment, as well as their nationalities. Now obviously, the prior incarnations all had the same nationalities. Richtofen was German, and that seems to be the case here still. Takeo was Japanese, and again that seems very much to be the case still. Nikolai was Russian, and whilst it still seems to be the case here, as it would make sense for him to maybe be a Cold War era Nikolai, potentially during the space race with America, could he even be a space pilot as opposed to an aeroplane one? Given the fact that one of the other rumored maps is apparently going to be a space station, that is possible. But we don't have enough to really go on with just his outfit, unlike the other two I just mentioned. And finally, Dempsey, I would assume, considering he's wearing marine gear, he's probably going to be a US military person again, but again, I don't think there's quite enough to tell, especially because we can't really see his body. But I would suspect all of their nationalities are going to stay the same, because it would feel really weird if they just suddenly changed one. I mean, in a multiverse, that's very much possible. However, they want to keep them in line with what made them so great before, at least I would hope so. Now obviously they've Americanized at least somewhat the Janus version of Richtofen, but he still has that German heritage as well with the dual nationality. Each one carries details that tie them to a distinct environment. Richtofen looks like a high-ranking figure from a militarized European power, Takeo feels like a warrior pulled from a land steeped in tradition, Dempsey stands as the battle-hardened soldier, while Nikolai's gear points to survival in frozen skies. The way they walk forward together in the shot, framed by light above and destruction behind, sells the idea that they are a unit despite the differences in their backgrounds. There's a noticeable lack of infighting that Ultimus or Primis had. If the leaked map concepts are accurate, it is possible each of these characters will have an origin mission or environment tied directly to their look, sort of similar to what we had in Black Ops 3, with each map being tied to a specific character. That would allow the game to explore different biomes and cultural aesthetics while keeping the crew dynamic and varied as we bounce across liminal spaces in the dark ether potentially. The designs feel deliberate in what they reveal and what they hide. Some characters carry clear symbols and decorations that hint at their allegiances. Others are stripped down, giving almost nothing away. This leaves space for their backstories to unfold in-game rather than being spelled out in the reveal. I suspect that Dempsey and Nikolai, looking so similar to past counterparts, could be setting up interesting twists on them we just can't see at eye level. But I'm sure we'll find out a lot more once we get the intro cutscene for Black Ops 7 Zombies. What is clear is that it is not a one-to-one recreation of the original crews. They are new versions pulled from different worlds, given gear and clothing that fit those worlds, and brought together into a single team. That creates a lot of room for fresh storytelling, while still giving fans familiar faces to rally behind. For now, all we can do is wait for Black Ops 7 Zombies marketing to show us more and learn more about these characters. I hope they don't reveal too much though. Honestly, I would like to jump into the game and it all be a mystery. But hopefully they do the character writing right, because they've really not done it on Reckoning with everyone else. And how will they interact with the Terminus crew upon meeting them? Richtofen's "Welcome to the Pie" quote almost seems like he gets excitement out of it, or almost seems like he anticipated them joining them, which begs the question why and how. But him taking command, he'll probably be the leader of the characters, just as Ultimus Richtofen was, and Primis Richtofen in Black Ops 3, as opposed to Nikolai in Black Ops 4. But what do you think? Are these new characters interesting to you? Could we be getting ready to see their home universes via liminal spaces? Let me know what you think in the comments down below as always, and I'll see you with plenty more content to come speculating. I'll probably have a video just recapping who the original characters are and the tag to and ending as well, for new fans or if you need a refresher. Thank you for watching the video, make sure to subscribe if you're not ready for latest and greatest Call of Duty news information. So anyways, thank you for watching, and bye.